Please consider supporting Black Women United YEG for the protection and advancement of black women and girls in Alberta. You can learn more about them at bwunited.ca. They are always looking for donations and volunteers. So please, again, support Black Women United YEG for the protection and advancement of black women and girls in Alberta. Again, that website is bwunited.ca.
Hey, this is Trevor from Halifax, calling in to say that I support Creative Control on Patreon because I think long-form arts journalism is a crucial part of music culture, and there's simply not enough of it out there today. Vish is a master interviewer, he lands great guests, and he has his finger on the pulse of the ever-changing music landscape, both here in Canada and abroad. For all of these reasons and many more, I think you should support Creative Control on Patreon too.
To make your flexible monthly donation to Creative Control, please visit patreon.com/Creative Control today. I'm Vish's wife, and I will love him no matter what you do. And now he has me on the record saying that.
Ran out of gas money, gotta make the last tank last. We're coming for you, Big Blue, and we're coming up fast. To the yellow lines in a big old sky full of seagulls. Life's a beach if you keep to yourself, help nobody else. Deliver upon the promise of evil. 2 Cokes in a paper bag. Shake it up, Jim, give me a drag. A slice of the lot ain't a slice at all. Aha, burn it up before we're going to free fall. It gets hard to sleep with the floodlights on. Bye-bye, Jubilee. Bye-bye, Jubilee. When you're kept, you keep your blinders on. Bye-bye, Jubilee. Bye-bye, Jubilee.
Nyssa is a wondrously talented musician who lives and originally hails from Toronto, Ontario. Once the lead vocalist of the garage rock band Modern Superstitions, Nyssa has now established herself as one of Canada's most arresting live performers, brilliant narrative songwriters and producers, and a gifted powerhouse singer. Her remarkable self-titled debut album is called Girls Like Me, which was released August 21st, 2020, and Nyssa and I connected recently to discuss its origin story, what life is like in Toronto these days, her relationship with the city and how it lives up to its potential, her work in the service industry and how that has impacted her as a storytelling songwriter, her persona and perceptions of her as an electronic pop artist when country, soul, and rock and roll heavily inform her work, future plans, and much more. A part of the Entertainment One network with the support of listeners like you, who follow and subscribe to this podcast and spread the word about it, and make flexible monthly donations at patreon.com/Creative Control, and Massey Hall's concert film series live at masseyhall.com, where you can stream dozens of 30-minute films for free, including performances by past podcast guests like The Weather Station. Plus in-kind support from Pizza Trocadero, The Bookshelf, and Planet Bean Coffee in Guelph, and Granddad's Donuts in Hamilton. This is the 559th episode of Creative Control, featuring the rising star Nyssa, with your host, me, Vish Khanna.
Blinders on. Bye-bye, Jubilee. Bye-bye, bye-bye. It gets hard to sleep with the floodlights on. Bye-bye, Jubilee. Bye-bye, Jubilee. When you're kept, you keep your blinders on. Bye-bye, Jubilee. Bye-bye, bye-bye.
Hi, Nyssa. How's it going?
Hey, Vish. It's going good. How are you doing?
I'm not bad. I'm here in Edmonton, Alberta. Where in the world are you?
I am in Toronto, Ontario,
How are
Canada.
I'm getting a lot of expanded, answers to this. I ask this question every time when I do a remote chat, and people are like, I made this joke the other day. People are GPSing, exactly where they are so that we're all clear that you are in not only Toronto, but Toronto, Ontario, Canada. That's
Yes.
nice to know. How are things going? Go ahead.
Sorry. No, I was going to make a dumb joke, but I have
Go
no
ahead.
need to do that. Things are all right. Things are all right in Toronto.
Okay, cool. I forget. Are you from there?
I am. Yeah, I am from here. Born and raised.
Okay. So you know nothing else, so you can't really tell me if it's worse than. Or have you traveled? Have you traveled around and spent time in other places, and can you relate those experiences to being in Toronto all the time?
Well, I mean, before this whole thing happened, I did some traveling around for sure. I don't know. I mean, it's Toronto is very much home for me, and I have, when a place becomes home, it brings with it its share of annoying things. So there are a lot of things that annoy me about Toronto, but there are also things I love, and especially summer in Toronto is something that I do love. I love how lush and green it is, and how if you don't have your own outdoor space, you can find outdoor space. That's been good, especially in a pandemic where I don't have any outdoor space myself. So I'm thankful for that.
Right. So when people who are in Toronto complain about Toronto, praise Toronto, you can relate to what they're saying on some level, but you don't. Nothing is enough to make you want to leave. You appreciate it, it sounds like, on the whole.
I appreciate it on the whole, but I have been thinking about Hamilton more and more.
This is the musical by Lin-Manuel Miranda?
No, it's definitely not. There's no Lin-Manuel entering into these thoughts that I'm having.
I haven't seen Hamilton, but I understand there is a lot to chew on, so I can see why you might be thinking about it. No, you're thinking about the city of Hamilton, Ontario, which is like 45, 50 minutes away from Toronto in the Greenbelt. It is a blue-collar town. It's got its fair share of issues, too. But yes, it seems to me, and I know this for a fact because I have lots of Hamilton people on the show, and I have Toronto people on the show who have moved to Hamilton. People are flocking to Hamilton as a place to live, as an alternative to Toronto. Why has it been on your mind, per se?
Well, I mean, over the past couple of years, every time I've visited, I've always had a great time. I know really great people who've moved there. I appreciate that it's a little bit smaller than Toronto. And I also appreciate the fact that it's, I don't know, I have this, as much as Toronto is home, I have this, like, Toronto hurts my feelings constantly because I feel like every time Toronto's been on the verge of something potentially great, and a more, like, in terms of an art scene or a music scene or something, I feel like it just skips that phase and immediately moves into like a gentrified phase. And that's been kind of a heartbreaking thing. And I feel like, I hope that, it seems like maybe Hamilton could have that phase and it could be last a little bit longer than Toronto seems to be able to maintain it there. Every time it happens, I just don't feel that Toronto seems to value the maintenance of a fruitful, creative environment.
Yeah, there's a few things going on in what you're saying, and I wonder what your take on the fact that in my experience and in my observation, what often happens with what precedes gentrification, which I gather you think is a negative thing. First of all, yes, what is your perception of gentrification in terms of the negative aspects of it? Do you have a definition of it that you kind of live with, that you're like, yeah, I appreciate why something would need to be gentrified, but it seems to me unsavory on some level? Let's get to that first. What is it about gentrification that you're like, this seems like a bad idea? And I don't mean to put words in your mouth if that's kind of where you were going, right?
Yeah, totally. I think, in all my traveling to different cities, it's just the gentrification really homogenizes neighborhoods, not just within a city, but in cities all over North America and even all over the world. I think I've worked serving brunch for years, and that's been my livelihood. And I have, I've gone out for brunch. I've served brunch. I understand brunch.
No one said brunch that many times on the show in a row. That was amazing.
I get brunch.
Yeah.
But I mean, brunch is like kind of this ultimate signal of gentrification. I mean, those two words I feel like go very much hand in hand. Mm-hmm. And I think that like it's a really great way to see that all these gentrified neighborhoods are just very much the same. I mean, if you go out for like a fancy brunch in Chicago or a fancy brunch in LA or New York or Toronto, it's going to feel like the same experience. So you're just losing identity, the identities of these neighborhoods. And, as some of these restaurants, I like the food's great. And I don't know, they offer employment to artists such as myself. But it feels very homogenized, and I don't like when things are all totally the same no matter where you go.
Right. The uniformity is what you're getting at there. So one of the reasons I asked you to expand upon that is what I've noticed is what usually precedes gentrification is artistic and creative activity. So I often, in my observation, artists will take advantage of low rents or dilapidated structures, and they'll move in and they'll make it amazing. They will, just by their sheer activity, things will be enhanced. Buildings will get slowly a little, maybe not repaired, but people start to populate these areas. Mm-hmm. And then what I've noticed is that the gentrifiers swoop in and say, oh, actually, I didn't even think of this rundown field and this area as being something we could work with. But Definitely. Here it seems that there are people. So is that part of your frustration? Is that because for me that's what it is, people kind of taking advantage of the vision of creative and artistic people and then swooping in to monetize it, and then, as you say, co-opt. Well, you didn't say this, but I will say they co-opt it and then they make it the same everywhere. And so I'm sorry, I'm not trying to ascribe thoughts and ideas, but that's where I was coming from with this whole discussion. What do you make of that perspective?
I absolutely agree with that perspective. The idea that, artists come in and, some people find this problematic in itself, but the idea, I think, isn't a negative idea of artists and creatives coming into neighborhoods and coexisting and happily and creatively and constructively coexisting. And then that kind of being immediately leached upon. And that's specifically sort of what frustrates me with Toronto, is that phase of like this gestation period, which it's just, I feel that Toronto just doesn't let that last. And I wish that could last forever. I don't, that's the most beautiful phase. But that's my frustration with Toronto, is that it just doesn't last. And it seems to be lasting shorter and shorter amounts of time in every city, and that's really frightening, I think.
Right.
Is that period. Because I don't know where everyone's supposed to go. Mm-hmm.
I mean, from a Toronto arts perspective, one of the trends over the last 5-6 years is venues closing down, mm-hmm. being shut down, landlords saying, no, it's got to be something else, or I'm selling the property to some sort of gentrification entity, and so I see your frustration, and I feel that given what we've been talking about in this pandemic and the lockdowns, I'm talking to you from Alberta, where in Edmonton, where I'm calling you from, there have been slight attempts at loosening things up at restaurants, not really music venues or, large scale or mid-sized mm-hmm. public gatherings, but restaurants have opened, and then there's some outbreak, and then they all shut down. So we have very little loosening up going on. A little bit, pockets of it. What's it like in Toronto as we're speaking in terms of that? We were talking about the importance of these artistic spaces and venues, but right now, I assume from my perspective of Ontario from here, there's not a lot of that activity going on right now, right? Gathering in places like that?
No, definitely not. I mean, I guess technically, since we're in phase 3, it's distance shows inside are allowed, but I don't know anyone who's embarked on that path as of yet.
Yeah.
And it feels, I don't know. I mean, it feels like anytime I picture what that looks like, I kind of come up against a wall. It seems strange, but I also don't know. I mean, I don't see a return to like so-called normal shows or touring in the next year at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't. So I don't know. I feel like I feel like everyone's still sort of like reeling from the general situation, and people are still kind of isolated because even though we've started socializing more with each other, we're still not allowed to really have each other into each other's homes and touch each other. And I don't know, there's people that I would normally see all the time that I haven't seen. So I just think we're going to have to find a way to have these conversations within music communities about how to kind of move forward as musicians who need to perform. I don't know, the whole I find live streaming, it's become a semi-necessary part of being a musician at this time, but I find it incredibly isolating, and I don't know. I don't know what shape this is going to take.
I don't know about you. I don't know if you've engaged with live streaming as a performer. Have you engaged with it? Have you engaged with it as a performer or as a patron to any great extent? Because I started to when it first happened, usually by accident. I'd go on my Instagram, would say, hey, someone's doing a thing. And I'd be like, what? And then it would take me to the thing. And then I'd be like, oh, I have to watch this thing, I guess, for a few minutes. And then I'd be like, I think I'm going to go do something else.
Yeah.
What about you? Have you been engaging with the live streaming in either realm as a performer or as a fan?
As a performer, I've done a couple, and I started doing this sort of like public access style thing called Nyssa TV, where I was asking friends to submit content and kind of just putting it all together as like a live web show. And then, but summer hit, and I just needed to take advantage of the fact that it's my first summer, probably my first and last summer not having like a so-called day job since I was a child. So kind of had to take advantage of that. But
wait a minute, you couldn't work because of the situation? Yes. Like, I mean,
yes.
Because of the pandemic.
Up until this point,
right.
Yes. And now I'm kind of trying to figure out what's next. But,
right.
Yeah, but I have done it, and it's just like, it's really so much work to try and get it to be the quality that I want it to be. I mean, I used to, playing shows at venues, there's a sound tech, and I'm working with somebody who's a professional, or usually a professional, to get the sound somewhere that I want it to be. And then I sound check, and then I go on stage, and that's not a small amount of work. But now I have to just do everything like a TV studio in my house, and I can't. It's a lot of work. So I've done a bit that way, and I'm still figuring it out. But in terms on the other side, I don't really have that much of an attention span for it. It's hard to just sit and watch. It's because it used to be such a shared thing. You go to a show with people and you talk about the band, and you're all sharing this experience. So I don't know. It doesn't yet feel like a substitute.
Yeah, as you say, I think we're still reeling and trying to process what is available to us in terms of, I mean, I feel like most of the things that are kind of streaming or online, whatever it is, or even as we're speaking, professional sports is sort of back in a weird ghost form where, in baseball, the fans were literally cardboard cutouts. In basketball, it's I think everyone's zooming in, or I don't know if you see. Do you like sports? I didn't mean to invoke sports. Do you like sports, Nyssa?
I don't like sports, but I'm aware of the sporting environment right now. I know what's going on, but I'm not participating.
Right. So my son loves basketball, and I'm kind of with you where I'm like, I don't really anticipate things getting back to normal, so to speak, anytime soon, and I'm relatively fine with that. But, when you have a kid who likes basketball and he wants to watch it, so I've watched it with him, and what they've got is the fans are screens. So they've got this, they call it the campus. The NBA is all in a bubble in Florida, and instead of live fans, they've got, you can see people on screens watching the game and cheering from the game using something like a video conference thing. So you just see these faces, and you can't really hear them. It's really bizarre. And I find
really
this, it is bizarre. So I think I'm with you in that I find this push for normalcy in a extremely surreal and abnormal time. I don't find it personally frustrating, but I find it kind of sad. And I don't know if you feel the same. Like, just people trying to find some... I don't mean to say that in an accusatory way, but it does feel a bit sad right now, doesn't it? That we don't know what to do.
It does. It does feel sad. It feels like there's just so many unknowns, and we haven't yet entered a new phase of understanding. So we're still sort of like grasping at the old way of doing things, and it's weird. It's like everything's become, I don't know, it's become, like you said, so surreal. And I was thinking about this in terms of like normal TV and normal film. I have a lot of friends who work in like film and TV, and they're supposed to be going back to work. But it's interesting to even think about like the idea of producing a show that takes place last year. Like everything's become fantasy. I mean, are sitcoms gonna rewrite so that, everyone's wearing masks and nobody's getting close to each other? Or is it going to take place in this now fantastic, surreal universe that it doesn't exist?
I get the sense from your line of sort of thought here that you feel like it's almost a bit tone deaf to be engaging with the normal stuff. Like it does. You said something earlier about that. Like, I can't even imagine going to a show or playing a show in this environment. And I've had that feeling too. Like, it doesn't feel, I don't know, good or like sensitive to what's going on, to just like, we know people are dying and people are isolating, and that's causing mental health issues and stuff. But look, sports, or look, we're Smash Mouth. We're just going to put on a show. Like, that stuff seems totally insensitive.
So, trying to be relevant.
Is that what you're, exactly. Is that what you're kind of getting? Like, the tone deafness is there too in your perception, yes?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't think it necessarily has to be tone deaf. I just feel like right now it currently is. It's like everyone's singing off key. Like
right.
Nobody's quite
Sure.
found the tune yet. And for me, that like,
you took my analogy and ran with it. That was good.
Love to run with an analogy. But yeah, for me, I mean, it's been like that idea of like not being able to make sense of things, or that the whole tone deaf idea. I've just been sort of retreating and just being close. Like, I have my pod of close friends who I love, and it's just been retreating into each other's company, and that's been really the only thing that's like felt real to me. And so I don't know. I mean, the idea of pretending nothing feels normal, so my friends and I really quickly created a new normal amidst the complete discomfort of the situation. And that's sort of the only thing now that does feel normal to me. And I don't yet feel comfortable going outside that little bubble that we've created.
You mentioned your friends there, and I don't mean to necessarily pry, but what about your family? I ask this because, and we're going to get to the fact that you just made a really, really brilliant album called Girls Like Me in a moment, I hope. But I pick up on some familial themes there, and I just wonder, like, because I happen to move away from Ontario in January to Alberta, and so I left my parents are still in Ontario, and it was a consideration that I would be away from them and we would be away from them, and now we really, really are. Like, there was a plan to go back in July, and that's all been quashed. But what about you? Do Do you still communicate with your family? Have you been able to see your family in this time?
Yeah, both my mom and my dad live in Toronto, so I have been able to see them. I'm really close with my mom and my dad, but yeah, I've seen them. My dad's a nurse, so I haven't really been able to like bridge a certain distance gap with him. But I have seen my mom, and I mean, I don't know, I do also consider my friends, my family. It's like we're kind of treating this pod like family. So I haven't been separated from my family, but my partner's been separated from his dad. So there's been there's been that to contend with, and it is, I don't know, it's difficult. I mean, you go through waves of understanding and feeling, and I mean, I'm lucky to have both my parents in the same city and not feel totally isolated from them.
You know, you touched upon a few things there that I think hover around the notion of introspection. I think this weird suspension has given a lot of people a lot of time to hopefully think about things and think about what we do with our lives and how we've done them. And so I work from home now, which was always considered, it's with some of the companies I worked with, was considered sort of like taboo. And
yeah, totally.
And meanwhile, most of my work has been kind of online. I was like, what's the big deal kind of thing. Whatever. That's just the way things have worked. Yeah. So we're learning a little bit about how we function societally and what we really need and what we sort of don't need as much, maybe. Mm-hmm. Have you found you've learned things about yourself or your friends or your family in this process?
Definitely. Yeah, because my two gigs were being a musician and are being a musician, and I was working in the service industry. I've worked as a server since I was like 15. Mm-hmm. So, but then, yeah, obviously both those things totally shut down. So I'm thankful for the government relief.
Yeah.
But that's obviously, I mean, living in Canada, definitely there's a privilege to that and being able to access that money.
Yeah.
So I have actually had the last, I guess we're coming up on 6 months to just totally pause and take a look at myself and my life and what I hold dear and my relationship with being a musician and just my relationship with myself and others. And yeah, I mean, I think it has been a period of growth, and especially in terms of my relationship with music, I think I was kind of just barreling along, like the goal was become a successful musician and in such a way that you don't need to support yourself with another job.
Right.
And yeah, and I don't think I really examined what that meant or what it looked like. And for me, I mean, the reason I make music is because I have to make music. It's not a popularity contest. And I learned very young in life that trying to be popular really did not get you in with the popular kids. So it's always been something I do make it for myself and hopefully other people like it. But I think I almost kind of forgot about that. And then I started writing with guitar again, and I started just sort of like inhabiting this musical self that I was maybe a little detached from, or was only attached to when I was like in the process of writing a song. And it's been the idea that how can you even be ambitious in this world? Like, how can you get on a tour? How can you I think that having that ability for that kind of ambition stripped away has been really, it was initially heartbreaking, but now it's been like almost spiritually refreshing in a way to just be left with the music.
Yeah, you've got that's exactly kind of what I was getting at and maybe hoping you'd say, just like a reconfiguring of what your priorities are as a person And as an artist, that's been key. I've heard that from more than a few people. You say that you picked up the guitar to write songs. I'm sorry, that's within the last 6 months or so? You've sort of approached music making differently in this time? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, I have. I learned how to play guitar in high school, and then I started a band, which became Modern Superstitions, with friends, and then I just stopped playing guitar, and I started just singing and focusing on front person duties. And then I got into the like whole world of Ableton and production, and I wasn't playing guitar because I always had it in my head. It's like, well, I'll never be great, so whatever, leave guitar playing to other people. If ever I want guitar, I'll go get one of my like crazy talented guitar playing friends on a song. And then the pandemic happened, and I was, it's hard to, there was so much screen time built in with all the only being able to see people through Zoom at that time, and just not even
it's exhausting. It's so exhausting. I can't.
Yeah, and not being able to leave the house, and so I couldn't just write with my computer at all anymore. So I started playing guitar, and then a friend of mine in New York, Leah Hennessy, incredible musician, she was starting a songwriting group. So I've been, trying to write a song once a week on guitar since April.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is kind of where I was coming from with that last question. I asked about the guitar, but you were talking about TV studios and film studios. Like, what are you going to talk about as you come back to work? So, similar question. I mean, first of all, have you achieved that goal of writing a new song a week? And secondly, the songs you have been writing in this period, do you feel like they reflect what's going on in the world and with you during the pandemic, or is it some other inspiration?
Yeah, so in terms of the goal of a song a week, I mean, it's been happening once a week since April, and so I was initially doing one a week, and now I'm about every other week, so still pretty regular. It's pretty good.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Yeah, and in terms of the writing, I mean, I guess the stories in the songs, I mean, there's one that my favorite one I wrote as like a post-apocalyptic answer to Night Moves by Bob Seger, which is one of my favorite songs. So that's the most, for me, that's going to be the song I wrote in this whole period that'll most remind me of this period. But other than that, no, I mean, like, I don't know. There's nothing going on. Everyone's lives are exactly the same right now. It's like, it's
exactly. Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I've the privilege of like being able to, be in my apartment and not, and be able to exist and all that. But I don't have anything new to report whenever I run into anyone. But I do have time to spend time with other people's stories and read and watch movies and sort of just follow new trains of thought. And since I'm writing in a more like country way, just that's where the guitar writing goes to.
Right.
Yeah, that's been kind of where I'm at.
It's interesting. We've been talking about self-isolation and not being able to see people. I've seen you play live, I believe, at least twice. I know it's twice. I don't know if it's more than that. One time was opening for Fucked Up at the Horseshoe, and I think we met last summer at Sappy Fest in Sackville, New Brunswick. And I'm always just blown away by you and your stage presence, and your songs are incredible. And I'm not just saying this to flatter you. I'm just a big fan. But it occurs to me that you, in both instances that I've seen you, it's been you and some kind of machine. There's not been a band per se. So I guess I wonder, I gather you were in a band and then decided to focus on being a lead person, but you are the only person. You took being a lead singer to such an extent that there's no one else on stage. So in terms of, that communal feeling of being in a band or being a performer, you've kind of been operating without that for some time. Do you have some perspective on that now that you don't have a choice really to be together with people on stage? Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I think what drew me to performing and producing and writing solo was, I don't need anyone else. I can put all my gear in a backpack or a small bag, and it's easy. And yeah, like you said, the idea of being a lead singer without a band, I mean, that's kind of the idea. It wasn't like I'm a solo electronic producer. It's like lead singer and then no band. So
Yeah.
that was kind of, that is sort of the like conceit of the whole performance side of it. But yeah, right now, I mean, there was a lot of collaboration on the album with other musicians, and I think I'm slowly moving back towards wanting to play with other musicians. And now that I'm playing guitar, yeah,
kind of now that you really can't on some level, you kind of want. That's probably natural. You now that you don't have the choice, you have a longing for that sort of feeling, right, of playing with people.
Absolutely. And I know, like, one of the things I most look forward to, the events I most look forward to every year is Death to T.O., which is Dan Burke organizes it. It's a big like Halloween covers night. So you get a bunch of Toronto bands doing cover sets, and that's been my like one means of performing, of like rehearsing and performing with a band over the past, I guess, six years or so.
Yeah.
And it's kind of been building up. Every time I do it now, I'm like, oh, I really want to be doing that more often.
Well, I will
Yeah.
I will say, like, having seen you the couple times I have, my impression was that this is a new kind of electronic artist. I think that's just my impulse, because you're using a machine. There's some synthesized music in there. I think it's not. I think anyway, and then it's you, powerhouse singer, which I want to get into your singing and your performative, your phrasing. Your singing is just incredible to me. I'm sorry, I keep flattering you, and I don't mean to do it. But I'm just a big.
Well, it's nice. Thanks.
I'm in awe of some of it, and I just want you to know that. But my point here is, as I've been listening to the record, Girls Like Me, and by the way, I texted you this yesterday. It's been playing around the house. Whole family loves it. Huge fans of you in the house now. My son loves it. He's been collecting some of these songs used to be singles, right? And you put out some EPs. Is that correct? Right. So he's finding. I can't give him the code to download the album, right? I'll go to jail because it's not out yet as we're speaking. So he's been finding it himself.
Come get you.
Yeah, that's right. So he's been finding it himself. But my point is, listening to the record, I'm like, wait a minute. This is more of a country singer than I had this sensation of seeing you. This is more of a torch singer or a rock singer. It doesn't register with me when I see you. And then the record has like pedal steel and slide guitar and these tones and of course the lyrics are fantastic too. Like, as a narrative songwriter, you're fantastic in that realm. So I guess I'm trying to figure out who you are, what you're doing. And you do seem like a true sort of open-eared listener, and it feels like all of these influences are coming out into your work. Is that sort of purposeful? Like, you played in this band, Modern Superstitions, and then you went solo. And I mean, would you agree with my description? You have kind of a synthesized presence live, at least. Is that fair?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm just really appreciate that you noticed the country and the torch and that's something that, I mean, that's what I like. That's how I learned how to sing, was like emulating more country and soul. Like that was the beginning. Yeah. So I that's definitely where my voice goes, and I think that's where it lives, and also more like rock and roll. What I'm drawn to in a vocal performance is very much not like within the electronic world really at all.
Right.
Yeah. And then the terms of I think like, yeah, I mean, for me, what I'm doing live, I think it's almost that people have this kind of like disconnect because of the computer and everything. And I think not being able to hear like the more sort of details, the more of the details within the backing tracks, it kind of just presents as more electronic.
Yes.
But it's always, but those elements have always been I've always like worked on those elements in the production, and definitely it's been a goal to sort of synthesize as all the genres that I like into one thing.
Well, I think you're doing it. I mean, it certainly, I think I appreciate that you can see why I would be naive, having only really, I mean, I've listened to the songs after seeing you live, but really digging into this record. By the way, have you enhanced these songs since they first appeared in the world? Like for the album, are they different?
Like in terms of how I produced them for performance originally, or
no? I mean, you've released some of these. As I said, you've released some of these songs before as singles and whatnot. Are we hearing the same version? Sorry, I didn't A/B them. I'm just asking you if you like changed them at all before you made them. Turn this into a whole record.
No, I mean, originally my idea was kind of just keep releasing singles in like an almost 1950s or 60s framework. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that people need a cohesive work to attach themselves to in order to like get to know an artist. And so I realized, and with the help of other people realized, that an album was the necessary step towards presenting a cohesive image and sound.
So what's the timeline? I appreciate that you acknowledge that, because I have been saying for some years, like, I think of albums as a snapshot in time. It's one of the reasons I don't really like compilations or greatest hits things, because I don't feel like the context is clear unless you really know the artist and the album, the original albums. I mean,
or unless it's ABBA Gold.
Or unless it's there's certain things or soundtracks like I'm not so stringent about. But I just mean if I had the choice between digging into a band's album or their box set compilation greatest hits thing, I'd go to the album, because I feel like the time and the context is very significant to what's going on in their expression. So within that sort of line of thought, what's the timeline on these songs? Like, I don't mean to get too specific, but like overarchingly, when did you start? When was the first song on this record written? And when was the most recent song written, if that's the easiest way to get to this? Yeah.
Okay. So let me think about it. I think the oldest song would be, I Don't Want to Live on the Moon Without You and Number One Girl, I think, are the oldest, followed by Hey Jackie and the Swans. Okay. And yeah, so I Don't Want to Live on the Moon Without You and Number One Girl, I think both veer a little towards like, I don't know. They're more like they're like kind of a psychotic version of girl group, like a really, they're my kind of twisted take on girl group songs. And that's something that's always, I don't think I'll ever like veer away totally from girl group music. I mean, I think that there's just so much there in terms of the production and the writing and the performance. I think that those are...
sorry to interrupt. Yeah. Doesn't Number One Girl vaguely have the Be My Baby drum beat?
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry, I was thinking about
it's the best. Yeah. The girl group beat is it doesn't really get that much better than that drum beat, I don't think.
It's weird, right? I had the same conversation with Meg Remy about the last US Girls record, which has exactly that beat on it. I think there's the beat as it appears on this record on that song, Number One Girl. I think is it Number One Girl I'm thinking of? It is, right?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah. I think so. It's a slight variation on that beat.
Yeah, it is in the chorus, yeah.
Yeah. So okay, so girl groups were there. Okay, sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to seem like I was smart, so I interrupted you with my
You're so smart.
Music trivia knowledge. Sorry about that.
No worries. Yeah, definitely the girl group, and then that's sort of like that's a through line. But I think Hey Jackie was kind of the first more like conversational storytelling song that I wrote, where I was like, oh, that's it. That's the voice. That's what I want to do, and that's how I want to do it. Okay. And then so then there's like most of the songs are more storytelling driven in that vein, and then there's a couple more like just straight like poppy and then more aggressive songs.
I don't know if this is wrong, but I pick up on some Springsteen
Definitely.
fandom. Are you a fan of Bruce Springsteen at all?
To say the least, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, big
I'm
fan.
a close follower. I'm a close follower of Bruce Springsteen and his albums, and I've seen him live many times. So I pick up on. He has a very distinctive way of song storytelling, and I picked up on that a little bit here. So he is an influence. And speaking of someone who is hugely influenced by girl groups and Motown and, dare I say his name, Phil Spector, Bruce Springsteen. I mean,
Yes,
he's this
absolutely.
weird connection to that tradition and has been trying to propel it and maintain it on some. I feel like he's part of that legacy. So he's in there. So okay, he's in there. What about your singing style? Like I've already over-flattered you, but your singing is remarkable. Who are your influences as a vocalist, if I might ask a relatively trite question? But I feel like it's significant because there's something going on here. I've not heard too many people who can sing like you. So where is this sort of coming from, so to speak?
Well, I think it's a weird combination of things. Because I've thought about this, and I think it goes back to being a little kid in my room playing with my dollhouse, which was never populated by dolls because they freaked me out. It was always little animals.
Oh.
And so, but I would be listening pretty much exclusively to Frank Sinatra and Sam Cooke. And so all the like singing along, that like my first years of like kind of singing along to music was just exclusively Frank Sinatra and Sam Cooke. So that was kind of part of it. And then in terms of the like, I don't know, more almost crooning vibrato side of things. And then I think like, and then when I was 13, like 12, 13, the Yeah Yeahs and the White Stripes and all that stuff came out, and then I got into like garage rock, and I really am very much drawn to like dirty voices and more like raspy voices, or voices that's like, I love when people push their voice and it sounds like it's kind of breaking. So
Yeah.
it's a combination of pretty and broken is really what I'm kind of aiming for all the time, I think.
I see. Well, and there's sheer power to it. Like, that's very fascinating, and I thank you for illuminating that. I think now that you say that, I hear all of that. I hear all of that in there, and no, it's remarkable. In terms of, so again, these, I didn't really get I don't think we clarified. Could you sort of pinpoint what years most of the material on the new album was written? Because it is a batch,
Yes.
right? It's not like can you, roughly, when did you write these songs?
I'd say, I don't know. It's just thinking about the first one. Probably within the last, I think it's a 4-year window. And
Okay.
the first would be either, I can't remember if it was Moon or Number One Girl, and the most recent would be Greenback Dollar Revisited.
Right. Okay. So roughly 4 years, having sort of compiled them all onto this album and listening to them in sort of this sequence, do they tell you something about your mindset, or maybe what, lyrically, in terms of any themes, like do you have a sense of what was kind of going on in your mind in this time period as you were putting these songs together and wanting them to get out in the world, in terms of, maybe what you wanted to convey, obviously, but maybe also what you hoped people might receive, if that makes any sense?
Yeah, for sure. I think that this is the first time, and that whole like 10,000 hours number in terms of going from amateur to professional, that gets that gets thrown around, and I don't know. I have
Malcolm
not.
Gladwell. This is Malcolm Gladwell's theory.
Gladwell,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't, whatever. I don't know. I don't know how much credence I pay to that, but I do think that when I started writing these songs, I was sort of moving from this period of like figuring myself out and becoming and like finding my footing. And I do feel like these songs are really the first time I've like found my footing. in terms of how I present this like narrative, these characters in this narrative version of myself in these songs. So I do feel like that's the first time, and especially, yeah, I mean, the more I've really moved into more storytelling driven songwriting, and that's always what I wanted to do. And all of a sudden it just clicked, and I'll be writing songs that I think my phrasing and the imagery that I'm drawn to, I think that these are going to be present through lines in my whole writing career as a musician.
Yeah, I hear that. I made an allusion to the fact that I made an allusion to your family life because I just thought there were some family dynamics going on the record. I mean, there's obvious things like Hey Jackie, I would say, that maybe spring to mind. But I'm also thinking, and sorry if I'm reading too much into that on some level, but I also was thinking about your work as in the service industry, because you're dealing with people all the time. And on some level, as well as just being attuned to their wants and needs, you are in a really observational position, I would think, to kind of just survey the highs and lows of human dynamics. So
Yeah,
I guess what I'm getting at in terms of your narrative style is, and particularly on this batch of songs, does it feel like is it equally autobiographical and equally observational? I guess that's, or does it feel like it's more one than the, are we learning about you? I know we're learning about your perspective on the world and life, but are we learning more about you, or are these kind of fictions that you have conjured just, from walking through the world?
There's a real combination. I think certain songs are certainly more autobiographical, and then others are more just they're more character driven, and it's really, I'm like taking on this persona of a character that I've kind of created from scratch, but that is certainly informed by my observational skills. And I have definitely generated a lot of observations based on being in a service industry position and really watching. And my mom growing up was also she worked as a server and bartender for most of my childhood. So even the way, like, her keen sense of observation was kind of like passed on to me before I even developed my own. And so I've always been a very watchful person.
Yeah.
If I sound creepy, but
no, I think a lot of people creating things and writing things and songs or comedy, I mean, it's all very observational, isn't it?
Totally. And and I also think in terms of working in service, the relation that has to my songwriting, I do think I have a very like conversational tone in songwriting, and it's very, almost all the songs are kind of, it's two people and I'm one person, and then there's another person involved in the narrative that I'm addressing or who's like by my side.
But the first person narrative isn't necessarily always you.
No.
Okay. I just want to clarify this. I just want to clarify that.
Yeah.
You invoked the term persona there, and as well as loving the music and singing along, my kids have just been staring at got the Apple TV, and so we've been playing the music on the TV, and so it comes to the, you know what I'm saying? Like it's music.
I know what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying. So the album cover is there as I put it on at dinner or lunch, and I watch them, my kids, like the TV's to the back of me. I don't look at the TV when I'm eating, because I say, Nyssa, no screens at the table. That's my dad move.
I think that's a good rule. It's a good rule.
Generally try to push it, but every once in a while we have movie night or whatever. And anyway, I am digressing heavily at the moment, but your album is playing on the TV. And so the album cover is there. And I watch my children just staring at the image you have, which is a beautiful photo, I believe, of you. And I thought of your persona. How would you characterize your persona? How you, I guess, present yourself as a performer and as a public figure?
Well, I think it took me a long time to become a confident performer, and I've been doing this since before high school, and I I mean, honestly, a lot of it has come from just trying to step into other performers' shoes as much as possible. Honestly, through those Death to T.O. shows, because I've pretended to be so many of my favorite front people that I took little pieces from all of that. And each one of those performers has such unique style. And so it became, I don't know, it became a way, the goal was to feel it in my body. And then, I don't know, I mean, it almost feels like you're some kind of magician or sorcerer or something, and you're learning
That's so weird.
how to use your hands. It's like your hands, I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of power in the hands. And that was something, the moment I realized that, I don't know. That's not. It's all in the hands. Is not really exactly how I would describe my my persona. But I just I don't know. I mean, I think Elvis was kind of the biggest one. Was pretending to be Elvis for a night, and I always just go back. I go back to, I don't know. I'm watching footage of Elvis and just how much power Elvis and other performers have over the crowd. It's just, I mean, it is kind of like a form of like spellcraft. Yeah,
he famously used his hands to accentuate notes or feelings. Famously, like it was kind of ascribed as these karate moves, I guess. But I think they came from that. He was totally into that. But just the power of the hands, that's fascinating. Sorry, I chuckled earlier because my son believes that the album cover makes you look like the primary Harry Potter villain, like the kid.
Draco Malfoy?
Yes. And I just thought, oh, that's hilarious that you said sorcerer, magician thing. I'm not so
funny.
steeped in the Harry Potter lore, but he used to say,
"Are we
listening to the
steeping for sure?" So I'm familiar.
Okay, see, I don't know the lore. I don't know what's going on with the Harry Potter, but I can't. I get it now. So that anyway, all this to say, it's remarkable work that you're doing, and I hope you appreciate that. I appreciate it on some level. I'm still processing it, as you can tell when I say like the sound is different than I remember it being when I saw you, and now that I'm digging more into the lyrics, like I was just captivated by you as a performer and the sound and your singing, but I just I appreciate this because I feel like I'm digging deeper, and it's fun. I enjoy what you're doing. My point here, Nyssa,
thank you,
is I think you're good. I think you're pretty good.
Thank
That's
you.
what I'm trying to
appreciate that.
So
and also, another aspect of that the sort of disconnect from when you saw me live last and then the songs on the album is I was really fortunate to have a lot of like talented musician friends on the album. So there's a lot more real people on the album than there was previously at a live show. So that's a big part of it.
Okay. Do you want to cite any of them? Like I feel like you want to give credit where credit's due. I do want to.
Yeah, so my friend Matt Aldred, who was in Superstitions with me, he's on, I think it's eight out of the 10 songs in guitar and synths and bass, and we've been playing together for years. And then my friend Zach Burgess is on 6 out of the 10 songs, and he's my oldest friend. I've known him since he was a baby. And he's on a bunch of it. And then Meg Remy actually kind of served as in her words, album doula for 4 of the songs. And she put me in, that was her words for her contribution. And she put me in a room with Jay Anderson and Matt McLaren and Andy Scott and Carlin Bezic. And so I have a lot of really incredible musicians populating the album,
right? Okay,
all the way through.
The other thing I just wanted to quickly follow up on, because you mentioned that there are lead singers that you admire. We talked about Elvis, I guess. Is there anyone else you want to cite just in terms of either their performative stances or the way they present themselves, or even just, I don't know, power? Is there anyone that comes to mind?
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite singers and songwriters of all time is Lucinda Williams. So
that is weird. My
she's
wife
a
caught that. My wife caught
big
that.
one.
There's a song on the record, and my wife just yesterday, I'm not making this up, said this sounds exactly like Lucinda.
Really? Oh
Yes.
my God.
She caught that. She caught that.
Delighted to hear that.
Yeah, I can't. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
my-
I don't remember what song it was, but yes, I'll find out. I'll ask her.
Yeah, please. I would love to know. But yeah, my mom played Car Wheels on a Gravel Road like incessantly when I was a kid, and I've always loved it. And yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, like, I've inherited a lot of favorite singers and albums from my mom, and I mean, a lot of my favorite albums now were her favorite albums when I was a kid, like Exile in Guyville by Liz Phair. So Liz Phair is a big one for me, songwriting wise and storytelling wise.
Yeah.
And then Sinead O'Connor is a big one, the first couple of albums. And I listen to a lot of older blues and soul as well. I mean, I mainly listen to like country, blues, and soul.
Yeah.
Otis Redding and Howlin' Wolf are two mainstays.
This is great.
Especially now,
You seem like a real student of music. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can make anything if you're not constantly seeking out things you love.
Sure. Yeah. By the way,
Yeah.
I have a feeling that the Lucinda thing might be Bye Bye Jubilee, but I can't say for certain. But I feel like in my head that's sort of there. Do you see where I'm coming from? I feel like that's in there a little bit.
I do, for sure. That's definitely one of the more like overtly country songs on the album.
Yes, this happens to be my son's favorite song. My son is 9. He thinks that's the best song on the record. And my daughter told me yesterday that she came up to me and she said, Levon's listening to Bye Bye Googly. So she's turning into Derek Zoolander or something. I don't know. She didn't understand the word, but she's only 5. She doesn't know the word Jubilee. Anyway, it's all this to say, much love from my family to yours. Nyssa, if people want to learn more.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. If people want to learn more about you and this record, Girls Like Me, on the internet, where would you send them?
I would send them I have my SoundCloud page, which is This Is Nyssa.
Yep.
And then I'm on all the social medias as This Is Nyssa, and you can find me on the streaming giants as well. And I'll be putting it up on Bandcamp also.
Are you pressing this, by the way?
When the day comes.
Is it going to be on vinyl at all?
Not yet. So the Fuzzed and Buzzed, which is a Toronto-based label run by my dear friend Lex and his friend Reg, were kind and generous enough to put both their financial and spiritual backing into this album. And so
Wait a minute.
it's not coming out yet.
Which Lex and which Reg? Who are those people?
I don't know if I've ever been told their last names. They're Lexology and Regicide. I don't.
Oh, right. I know that. I know Regicide.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. Right. Okay. So they're.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's that. And then the aim is to press it next year.
Okay.
So
well,
it'll just be digital for now.
set me up for anything I can do to help. If there's like a Patreon or some kind of investment thing where you pay and then you get the record, I am down. I would like to help if that helps.
I thank you so mumuch. I very much appreciate that. Thank you.
I'll message Regicide and tell them that because I'm in touch with the Regicide. Okay, you did say that the song at least it was once a week, every couple weeks. That to me, I neglected to usually ask future plans, but the future is so nebulous at the moment that I've been kind of skirting on that question a little bit lately. But you've got what it sounds like. You must have a number of songs that you're almost happy with. Do you have a sense of when those will be released or what your plans are beyond this album coming out?
I mean, it truly nebulous is the right word. I don't know what like the future is going to look like a month from now, let alone a year from now. But definitely my goal right now is to keep writing. And then I would really love to, my friend Zach Burgess, he's gotten pretty good at recording stuff in his basement. So I gonna set a goal to just try and record some stuff that way, and I don't know, go from there and just try and keep making stuff.
Yeah.
That's really the only thing that I can do.
Have you been listening to more music in this time? I've been sitting down with my record player and listening to more music than I can remember ever having the time to do since I was like a little kid. Since I've been an adult, I would say I've been spending more time just listening to records that I don't have to, cover, so to speak, with my work. But do you find you're listening to more music, or did you have to shut down? I've heard both from people.
I find it's been, I'm never not listening to music, but I don't think I'm as, I'm not paying as much attention to the music I'm listening to. I'm just kind of going back to comforting music, like putting on, soul or blues or country, which, I love those genres, but I'm having a hard time seeking out new music, which is something I want to be doing more of. And also it was just strange. The albums that did come out during the pandemic that I loved, I found it hard to spend time with them almost because, I don't know, music is such a shared thing. Like the way, I don't know, I'll go to my mom's house and play her a song, or she'll play me a song, or I'm hanging out with friends and it's like, oh my God, this is the song we can't get enough of. This is the album we can't get enough of. And taking the social element out of listening to music has kind of made it hard for me to like form new attachments to new music. I'm
sorry to hear that. I do find I listen to music the best in isolation, and then I talk about it with friends maybe who listen to it. It's weird. It's a weird thing. We obviously converge to go see live music, and that is weirdly an expression of, hey, 300 of us love this artist so much. We all spend time listening to their records, probably on our own or in the car with someone or what have you. But this is us gathering here is a testament to the power of the shared experience, and now we don't have that sense of, does anybody else like this, or am I on my
there's that for sure.
Yeah. So.
And I think it's also the fact that like I'm only listening to music in my own home, as opposed to like while I'm walking to work, or while I'm at work, or you know, while I'm in a car with somebody, or I'm at somebody's house, or it's just the fact that I only get to hear it in one way. I'm not used to only having access to one means of listening. I like lots of different ways of discovery and hearing new music. Yeah.
It's the ever-changing new normal, right? We don't really know what's going to happen, but I'm trying to get you. I don't know about you. I'm trying to get used to this as much as it's changing all the time. I'm relatively I'm so busy that I'm just like, well, this is the way it is. I guess I may never see Bob Dylan again, or I may not see whoever again, and I had my fun and I saw and experienced a bunch of stuff, and now it's going to be different. And
for sure,
so I'm trying to. It's hard. It's way easier said than done, and I feel lucky that I'm in that zone where I can kind of view it that way, because I know some people are. You can see it. They're struggling with it, and that's why they're trying to do that. We got to go to the beach. All of us got to go to the beach. And you're like, it's probably not the best idea to go to the beach, but anyway. Weird times.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. People, we're social animals. So it doesn't really, it's not going to get easier. But I got to just keep writing songs, and hopefully people take some comfort in those. And I'll offer up what I can.
Yeah. Well, you're doing, just so we're clear, you're doing fine work. You're doing the best work of almost anyone I can think of right now. If I haven't, I don't gush like this with guests, so I don't know what's going on with me and your record and you, but I like it. It's really good. If we can go out on a song from Girls Like Me, Nyssa, could you pick one for us and maybe even say why you chose it?
I will pick Misty Morning, because it's my favorite one on the album, and I feel like it's kind of the song that most represents what I want from life. I hope to one day live on a commune with my best friends in nature, and we all share a beautiful life together. And if that only exists in my mind for right now, that's still a place that I can I can go in flights of fantasy. And yeah, so that's the song, and also it's going to be the next music video after the album's
cool.
out. Yeah.
So slight Led Zeppelin reference there in the title, and also is the lyric "Misty morning and I'm hungry"?
Yes.
So it's about brunch.
Yeah, it's totally just about avocado toast.
Sorry, that was a bad way to end on a stupid joke, but I'm gonna go with it anyway because what the hell? This is Misty Morning.
Hey, keep it fun.
Exactly. I'm trying to keep it fun. That's what we got to do. Exactly. Yeah. This is Misty Morning by Nyssa from Girls Like Me. Nyssa, I hope you appreciate that I appreciate you, and I thank you for this time, and I wish you the best of luck with everything going forward.
I do. Thank you so much for having me. Very much appreciate it.
I'm too young to show you what was, and I'm too old to believe in what will be. These modern ruins, this broken heart, could it be enough to start a family? Yeah, you and me and a couple of friends in a little land, sweetened by the hard city years. Those hard, broke city years. I dreamt I flew over rolling hills of wild heaven forever and ever. And I'll never sit with my back to the window or turn away from a friend in need. I dreamt the devil took me in his arms and I liked it. Now I can show you how it feels to make something real, surrounded by the wild green bounty. Misty morning and I'm hungry. Misty morning, I'm so hungry. I crack a high life on the porch at dawn. It thrills me to recall. Yeah, it really turns me on. Every single choice I made that brought me here to this misty morning. I kiss my shoulder, it's only me. I kiss my hand, it's only me. I kiss your face, I kiss our face. I kiss their face, I kiss her face. It's only, I'm so hungry. Misty morning and I'm hungry. Misty morning and I'm so hungry. Even when my body betrays me,
I was really honored to have Nyssa on this, the 559th episode of Creative Control, which is part of the Entertainment One Podcast Network and available on all Apple and Google platforms and lots of other podcatchers too. If you can't find an episode that you're looking for, or if you want to learn more about me and sign up for my semi-regularly scheduled newsletter, god damn it, I'm going to send out a newsletter. I just haven't done it, and I feel badly. I'm sorry. I don't have much to say. I talk enough on the show, don't you think? You really need to read what I think? I don't think so. Maybe you do. People like newsletters. I'm sorry. I appreciate you subscribing to the newsletter, and I will tend to it. I feel bad. It's one of those things, you set something up, and then you feel bad you're not, tending to it, and then you feel bad about yourself, and you don't want to get out of bed. That's what I'm like with the newsletter. Anyway, I'll get the newsletter going. If you want to learn how to sign up for that or learn more about me, go to my website, vishkhanna.com. You can like Creative Control on Facebook. I hate saying Facebook. You can like Creative Control on all social media things, mostly. Also, follow the show on Twitter at vishcreative or follow me directly at vishkhanna. Also, visit patreon.com/Creative Control to make a flexible monthly donation to sustain this podcast and all of its activities. $6 or more gets you access to exclusive content, and I hope those of you who can access that appreciate it. If you want to access that stuff, $6 or more, go to patreon.com/Creative Control. Again, it's flexible. You can change the amount you donate whenever you want, and the amounts come out on a monthly basis. Thanks again to live@masseyhall.com, where you can watch beautifully captured concerts by great Canadian artists. They have many concert films in their archives up at live@masseyhall.com. Thanks as always to Pizza Trocadero, The Bookshelf, Planet Bean Coffee, and Granddad's Donuts for their in-kind support for this show. Thanks as always to my dear old friend Jim Guthrie for lending me some music for this particular podcast. You can learn more about Jim at jimguthrie.org. And finally, thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode with Nyssa. I'm telling you, this Nyssa, it's just been a revelation. I'm a huge fan of everything I've seen, and the record's fantastic. I hope you will check out Girls Like Me as soon as you can. It's wonderful, and as I said already in the show, whole house loves it. It's shaking and vibrating the house in a way that we need right now. So I would dig into Girls Like Me by Nyssa, and also tell your friends about this podcast if they don't know about it, and please follow the show, subscribe to the show, whatever, and I'll keep doing it. And that is all I have to say for now, except for when I put out the newsletter, in which case you'll hear more from me, I'm sure. Thank you. Bye for now.